I said, well, I'm scared. I said, I'm scared because me leaving my family, who's going to protect them?
Mm-hmm.
And God, clear as day, said, oh, so you the one keeping them protected.
That's good. That's mine. I feel you.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry, God. Forgive me. Because we like to think because of our presence, they're being protected. I can get obliterated. My presence can get obliterated if they come in with the right tools.
For real.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Yeah, I shoot. I got some fighting skills.
Right.
This is real.
Right.
I can shoot a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Run up on me if you want to. But
you can handle a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what I'm saying. I'm very defensive minded. I'm not scared of anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? But can I be taken out? Of course. So if I get taken out in any scenario around my family, am I the real protector? You know what I'm saying? Even if I get taken out and they be safe, they're still safe. Right. I got taken out. So who really protected them? Who was really their protector? So I think in a natural sense, as a man, it's natural to be like, I'm the protector, and you're supposed to be.
Okay.
But
that's the point.
protection comes from a protector.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not you protecting it. It's that God gives you the ability to protect.
Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, where we give life to the stories of fathers in a way that empowers and encourages us to be a better version of ourselves. Today's episode features a panel of dads brought together to discuss their feelings and opinions on topics ranging from raising our boys to their fullest potential to the true meaning of happy wife, happy life. We really had some fun with this one, so turn up the volume a notch and enjoy. I appreciate you guys for coming through. Jarrell, Tony, and Dave. Feel like we're going to get into some real nice stuff this afternoon, and I can't wait. So what I've decided to do is come up with a little different way to kind of kick this off. And so what I would like to do is this little segment called Survive the Encounter, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys an encounter, and I want you to tell me how you would survive it, right?
The manly way of getting out of it.
Well, yeah, right. Right. So you're in a car with your family, wife, girlfriend, and kids. You're headed to an event, and you pull into a big parking lot, right? You're going down a lane, and you know how you go, like when you're going into Target, you go through the main lane, and then you go down the aisle to get into the parking space. You finally pull into a parking space that has a car in front of you. But then when you look up, once you park, you notice that there's a car that is pulled behind you, right? And now has blocked you in, and you can't back out, right? And so you're sitting in the car with your wife, girlfriend, and kids, right? Not all together, wife or girlfriend, right? I don't think any of you got it like that. But they've now blocked you in, right? What do? Survive the encounter. You're still trying to figure out the scenario. So it's clear that once you've pulled in, that there is something going on. They've pulled in and they've parked. They've stopped behind you, right? You can't move. You can't get out. So it's a clear vision that something is happening. Yes.
First, I would keep an eye on the rearview mirror. I don't like to alert the rest of the squad. You know what I'm saying? If I alert anybody, it'll be my wife. I just say, babe. Of course, I have to say, hold on 1 second. You're going to look at what I'm looking at. So the thing is, what I would first do is just her calm. He's calm. I'm always calm. I don't think it's an encounter yet. They block me in. I would just wait, see what happens. So many ways it can. They jump out, or they just.
At this point, they've just stopped and they've blocked you in.
Get out and go about my business.
Okay. Tony?
Yeah, so if I'm in that situation, I'll pull into the spot.
You're already in the spot.
I'm already in the spot.
Right. So they've already they've already put you in a position where you can't move your car or do anything else. You're like there parked and you can't go forward because there's a car in front of you.
Okay. If I'm in that position, if I have enough room, I'll try to nose the driver's side of the car to the car closest to me, which would prevent them from being able to get to the passenger side of the car. Okay. Because if they're going to carjack me, naturally they're going to come to the driver's side. If that's the case and I'm able to nose the driver's side to the car closest to me, prevents them from getting to the passenger side. So if the people that are in the passenger side need to get out, they've got a little bit more time and a little bit more space to get out of that side of the car.
Right.
If I recognize that it's happening, I'm not going to get out of the car. I'll wait till they make their move first when they start to approach the car, and then I'll open the door and back as much as I can.
Okay.
Because rather than give the car away, they're going to eat some of that door before they get the car.
Okay. Gotcha. Dave.
All right. If
And the reason Dave's going last is because he has some tactical experience. Right. So he's going to have, I believe that, let me just be quiet. Go ahead.
So if the first thing I'm doing, like I said, is tell everybody not to get out the car yet. I'm not going to give a specific reason for why we not getting out the car. If anything, I'll come up with Daddy think trying to remember something before we get out. We might have to move out of this spot. After that, I'm just waiting to see what their next move is, because until they make a move, nothing has actually happened. But when that door does open, seeing that the windows are tinted, at that particular time, all profiling comes into play. If you look like you have the potential to be somebody to do something, I'm immediately flooring it, and whoever's getting out that door first is going to get crunched in that door as my car slams into that door. At that point, considering we're in a crowded parking lot, y'all got to rescue your boy because he's stuck in that door now. And the only alternative y'all have is to pull off. Now, after that, I'm jumping out, taking pictures because I need that license plate.
Right.
But as far as anybody getting out of the car, me trying to be a hero other than running somebody over with the car, that's really, all that's left. And if, say, for instance, he gets back in the car, I pull up and I back up again. I pull up and I back up again. I can articulate to my insurance company that there was an attempt and this was the way that we, tried to save or protect ourselves. But that would be the biggest and most accessible weapon that I would have.
Is the vehicle. Right. So this is it. It was a real life situation, right? So this actually happened to me. Probably about a month ago, right? And so one of the things that I left out of the encounter is that when we're going down the main lane, I realized that there's a car blowing behind us. And when that happens, I say, because I was turning down the access lane to get to the park, to get to a parking space. And so they honked their horn. I was like, oh, well, maybe it just, I didn't turn on my signal, so they get mad and they honk their horn. So I look at them in the rearview mirror, and then I immediately start to ignore them. And so as I'm coming down the access lane to park, I still don't realize that they've started to follow me, right? And so by the time I realize that they're still there following me, I have already pulled into the park. And so what I've done is and typically what I do, I don't box myself in if I have the opportunity to do so. But we had the kids and we were trying to get in the gym. And so it was just like, all right. So I pulled into the spot where we can't go anywhere else. There's a median on the left side and the doors on the right. And so after I realized that they're still behind me, I've already parked and they've pulled up with tinted windows in this van, and then they kind of rolled. So I know that there's something going on, but I don't know exactly what it is. So my immediate reaction is that, and it messed me up for a couple days, right? I didn't really know what to do, but I felt like I had to do something because if they got out of the car and they had something, we're all in trouble, right? If they get out of the car and they're trying to do something, if I put myself between my family and them, I give my family, I'm thinking to myself, I give my family a better chance to survive the encounter, right? This is what's going through my mind. Like, as I'm processing all of this, trying to figure out, like, all right, so what should I do in terms of protecting, right? So I get out of the car, they roll their window down, and I say, well, what's wrong? You looking for somebody? And they like, you stole my phone. You got a dude in the car, and you stole my phone. When the dude in the car stole it, I say, man, look, I don't know what you talking about, but I got my family in the car, and so you're going to have to keep moving or we're going to have a problem. And so as I'm saying that, I can tell that there's somebody else in the back, in the back of the van. I can't make out who it is or how many it is because the windows in the back are tinted. And so he's not moving, but he's still talking. So I'm like, dude, my family and kids in the car, and you making me uncomfortable. So you got to, and as I'm talking, I'm like, okay. So obviously me talking to him is not making him uncomfortable, right? So I got to do something to make him react one way or the other so that we can make some decisions. So now I start moving closer and closer to his car. Like, so now I'm getting to the back of the car. And I've already told Keisha and the kids, like, all right, so stay in the car while I try to figure out what's going on. So as I get closer to the back of the car, he starts to he's like, you want me to call the police? I said, well, I don't care what you do, but you're going to have to get from behind our car. So by the time I get to the back of the car, they start to pull off. Right. And then so I tell Keisha and the kids to get out and go into LA Fitness. And I stand outside and I see them kind of circling around. When they move on, I get in the car and I move it somewhere else. And then now, crisis averted. But after that, I thought about all the things that could go wrong and what it really means to be a protector of your family, right? And it literally scared the shit out of me for 2 or 3 days because I had no idea whether I was doing the right thing, was I putting my family in a worse situation, right? And so in today's society, how are we preparing ourselves to be protectors of our family? What is the definition of being protectors really mean to you all?
You know what? But before you hit us with that, because I know it's gonna be good. I mean, me and my wife have had conversations about what to do in those types of situations. I think that's the first thing you do. You have to come up with scenarios and situations and figure out what to do. And my thing with her has always been, if anything ever jumps off, run. Don't go back to back and it's me and you against the world. And
leave
I got
me?
this.
Leave you?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. That sounds good, but I mean, it's not realistic. Number one, because you really don't know what other option they have. And if it's multiple assailants, man, that was a technical word.
It was. Again, Dave has experience, somewhat like a Navy SEAL, but we ain't gonna get into it.
If there's multiple people, the odds of me being able to win are slim anyway. Now, does that mean I can't be a protector? No, because a protector doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get protected. It means that there was an effort put in place to try to avoid what could possibly happen. And so her thing was, well, why wouldn't I stay and help you? I said, because if I get beat up and you still there, ain't no telling what could happen to you. Okay? Me getting beat up an extra minute and a half gives you an extra minute and a half of run time.
Right.
And you probably know where we were. So maybe you can get somebody there to help me before I'm all the way out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So being a protector, I think one of the things we as men get caught up in is the whole idea of what the macho is in any given title or position. And sometimes it's not about being macho. It's about putting yourself in a position to make a way for somebody else, not necessarily making that ideal decision that's going to ensure that it worked out or that made it all right. That sounds good as a protector, but at the end of the day, you're just that person who's standing in the gap, so to speak.
Right.
You know, so I mean, if you want to say you're the dam in the situation, you know, maybe that's a better word.
Right.
You know?
But is it our responsibility as men to be that dam? Right? Should we accept that? If you decide to take a woman, right, have a family, should you accept that as a part of your responsibility? Is there any scenario where it's like, all right, well, you know, because we have the conversation about, you know, women being independent and what it means to have roles in relationships, right? And so those lines have been getting blurred because women are bringing in more money into the relationship, and that seems to insert in a lot of conversations be the equalizer for everything. I can do everything that you do, or we don't need roles. Like, why are we having conversations about those things? But as men and then as fathers, are we supposed to have this understanding that that's who we are?
Oh, I'm gonna let the other guys go, but
Okay.
I don't believe independence has a place in a relationship, and whoever makes whatever kind of money is of no value,
Right.
when we talk about building a relationship.
For sure.
But go ahead.
I'm going to go last.
So the question is, do we assume the role of being protectors in the relationship?
Right. Without denying anything else, is that some of the things that one of the things that you're absolutely supposed to bring to whatever relationship you decide to have with, or that you decide to be in with family, when you decide to have kids, and then when you decide to, you know, be in a committed relationship? Is that what we're supposed to walk in with foundationally?
Absolutely. I think that it is necessary that we walk in being the protectors of our family, because in the protection role also comes the role of the representative. And if you're not showing up as the representative of your family unit, what example are you presenting to the world of what your family dynamic is?
Okay.
So, even though I'm not a very religious guy, I do believe that the man is the head of the household. He should be the leader of the relationship, and that does not mean that he makes all of the decisions exclusively. And I'm saying that for the women in the audience that are listening, who are going to go into an uproar about men being the head of the households. But I believe that a man should be the head of the household, and especially in the scenario that you described, it was necessary for you to be the protector in that situation.
Right.
Because physically your presence was better received than if a woman had gotten out in the same situation,
Right,
and addressed that situation.
So let me ask you guys this before you go real. If I told you guys that story in the reverse, and I told you that I stayed in the car with the kids, and my wife got out and had the interaction, how would you guys then feel about me?
Say you need to control your lady, man. You out of control.
Control my lady?
You need to control her. Tell her get back in the car. If you allowed her to get out and confront
So, but is that her fault or mine?
yours,
Okay.
absolutely yours.
Right.
Babe, get in the car. You jump out, and if you got to push her back in the car, because you be talking about potential danger.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's all your fault.
And essentially, she has the potential to take that scenario to a place that it wasn't going to go to,
Right.
just because she's approaching it emotionally as opposed to
Logically.
Yeah. And I don't know that my approach was absolutely like the most logical approach.
I'll tell you what,
It got y'all
everybody got back safe.
Yeah.
Right.
You did good.
Right.
You did very well.
Yeah.
I mean, we can armchair quarterback it all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
But the reality is, there's two things you have to consider with with any approach to any given situation is this the situation where I can take less of an aggressive position and possibly win, or we all walk away, or is that the only option that I have? And that's not
And that
the
has to
best-
happen in a split
right, and
second.
Right, and that's not the best circumstances to
Right.
have to make that decision.
Yeah.
But the reality is, in this world,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we better be thinking about on a regular basis, because this ain't the world we grew up in. You know, but at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
going home
Right.
has to be the first thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how can I do this and go home?
Yeah.
Not how can I do this and save face?
Mm-hmm.
Because too often we get caught up in the macho side of manhood, and we approach things not realizing we ain't in control unless it's just us. And if it's just us, we ain't even in that situation. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to approach it and think of it as, what can I do to diffuse this, even though somebody gonna drive off calling me a punk, even though my wife might look at me like, did you really you took that from him?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's all a part of the game, though. I mean,
it's all part of the game.
yeah.
But,
You made it. You're home, right?
that-
We're
and-
here.
But that's being a protector.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Saving face or being macho is not being a protector. It sounds good at your funeral, but the reality is,
It's still your funeral.
Right.
it's still your funeral.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The goal is to get everybody out of whatever jam it is safely.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't look good doing it, it's irrelevant. You might beat yourself up about it,
Right.
Or you might start taking karate
Yeah.
and turn into the next Bruce Lee.
Right.
But the reality is that ain't what being protected is, and it ain't gonna fix it, because 9 times out of 10 you ain't gonna never get to do none of that stuff in a real fight, no way.
Right.
As long as whatever you do works for getting you and your family home, that's the only thing that matters.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, I Ray, you got some more? You got some more to add?
I mean, you know, I always come from a spiritual aspect of things. Are we supposed to take on the mentality of protector? That's natural for a man. It should be natural for a man. But I'm going to just give a real quick, real life story. Before I was called to go away 3 weeks in Africa, we were doing the run thing, the Nike Run app.
Yeah.
And I was running. I think it was my last run of
the challenge,
of that little session.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sunny. I remember running, and I remember being actually scared to leave my family for that long. I'd never been away from my family for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you know what I'm saying?
It's an
I've
eternity.
been married like 15 years.
Right.
So that's like, that's long.
Right.
So I was kind of apprehensive about it. So I'm jogging, I'm talking to God, I'm praying. I'm like, so he literally, if y'all don't know, God speaks to me a lot, and it's very clear. I don't play no games.
Right.
I can tell you, whatever. So he said, what's the problem? I said, well, I'm scared. I said, I'm scared because me leaving my family, who's going to protect them?
Mm-hmm.
And God, clear as day, said, oh, so you the one keeping them protected.
That's a good, man. I feel you.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry, God. Forgive me. Because we like to think because of our presence, they're being protected. I can get obliterated. My presence can get obliterated if they come in with the right tools.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Yeah, I shoot. I got some fighting skills.
Right.
This is real.
Right.
I can shoot a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Run up on me if you want to. But
you can handle a weapon.
yeah.
It's
It's what I'm saying. I'm very defensive minded. I'm not scared of anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? But can I be taken out? Of course. So if I get taken out in any scenario around my family, am I the real protector? You know what I'm saying? Even if I get taken out and they be safe, they're still safe.
Right.
I got taken out. So who really protected them? Who was really their protector? So I think in a natural sense, as a man, it's natural to be like, I'm the protector, and you're supposed to be.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
your
that's the point.
protection
Okay.
comes from a protector.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not you protecting it. It's that God gives you the ability to protect.
Right. So it's part of your purpose. It's basically
Yeah,
what you're
I
saying.
mean,
So
yeah,
the purpose of why we're,
That's just
here.
going. That's just going. Just going a little deeper.
Yeah. Religious or even spirit, like, beyond religion, more spiritual. Like if you believe that there's a greater creator, whatever you may believe, that part of your purpose, and I think that that's the point, and where the lines are getting blurred today, is that we're getting away from what our purposes are, right? As men and
we
women.
don't even. Most men don't even know their true purpose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I get. Yeah, for sure.
Like really.
Yeah.
Why were you created? What are you supposed to be doing in life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. No, I get you. Yeah. Tony, you want to jump in?
No, I don't want to get off on the whole purpose thing because
Yeah.
that's going to be another conversation. So
Right.
we'll come back to that later. But
Okay.
yeah, I definitely agree with.
Right.
But I really like your point, because the reality is, even when you're present, you can't stop nothing.
If it's supposed to happen.
In real life,
Right.
even when you're present,
Yeah.
are you really protecting anybody?
Right.
Just think about this. If you walking your family across the street
Mm-hmm.
and a car coming, full speed, and you push them out the way and stand in the way to protect them,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get hit, maimed, whatever. But they're still protected.
Right.
So were you the real protector?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Because you couldn't even protect yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mentality. I'm not saying don't ever think that you're not a protector. I'm saying
Right.
think that your strength to protect comes from
a different place. Your source of
Yeah.
that comes from a different
Because
place.
like I always explain, okay, if you got a PlayStation, what's that over there?
Yeah, PlayStation. Yeah.
Which one? Oh,
A 3. Yeah, I don't even play no more. Yeah.
Okay. What I'm saying is, as people,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people think, okay, we're gods.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a common
Right.
black man and God, blah 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 blah. Okay, whatever. That PlayStation has a lot of potential,
Mm-hmm.
but when it's not plugged into a power source, it's nothing.
Well, preach. All right. Yeah.
You
Keep
get what I'm
going.
saying? No,
Yeah,
no,
I hear you. But
No, I'm saying,
I'm gonna turn this into a
as-
collection plate. Put your
I'm
dollars in
saying,
there.
as a man, to
No, I hear
have
you.
true power,
Yeah.
it has to come from a source. That's
Yeah, sure.
everything in life.
Yeah, you got to be plugged into something,
You
man.
have to be plugged into
Yeah.
a power source.
Right.
You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and all I'm saying is you're supposed to have that defender mindset.
Right.
You're supposed to. Even the mother is supposed to have it. Even the woman. She's supposed to protect the family too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because in the lion pride, the woman hunts. The male lion sits back and wait for her to bring the freaking food back.
Right.
Go watch it. Men, the males never hunt unless they absolutely
Have to. Yeah.
and if they'll step in if that woman having problem
Mm-hmm.
getting that meat. You know what I mean? they'll step in. Dude, if they having a
Flag on the
struggle
flag.
with
Flag on the flag.
Yeah.
Flag on the
Pause. Y'all know what I'm saying, though, man. Bringing the hunt home. You know what I mean?
You didn't even have to say pause there either because it was a proper reference.
I mean, no, the meat part, man. I don't want the women. I'm like, Tone, look, I don't want no women in the uproar. Y'all, when they get together, it's something else.
Oh, man.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. No. That's. Oh Jesus. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. So we do have to, as men. I think the point from this conversation is to figure out where your source needs to, where your source is, right, and plug into it, right, and then so the real thing is that I don't know what could have happened. They could have really been on something, and if they had a gun, I didn't have a. I was at their mercy anyway, right? So, but being plugged into a specific source, like that's where that energy comes from, and what comes out of it, you can't really do anything for it. But we are, as men, I believe, supposed to be in a place where we're protecting our family, whatever that means, whether it's defending. We stand out in front. You push your kid, because again, if you tell that story differently, if any man tells you that story and he puts his woman in his place, you probably gonna trip him as he's walking out the door, right? Like, please, yeah. I can't even. Why are you even in this circle?
Go
like,
sit
I don't.
down.
Yeah, somebody taught you wrong, right? And so I think that's where that is. But we can definitely go on about that for a long time. So one of the questions, we're gonna move on to the questions in the box. Why is defining manhood so difficult to do?
I don't think it's
You don't think it's difficult? How do you define manhood?
You define manhood as the life that a male is experiencing and accustomed to. So your manhood now I would say nowadays it's been so watered down. The true definition of manhood. Manhood is what a man goes through in life. That's basically at its basic. That's what manhood is. You know what I mean? Like when a man goes through puberty and when he experiences feelings for the opposite sex, and when he has fights, or if he has fights, or conflict, even just conflict, that to me is just manhood. You know what I'm saying? That's it. It's the experience that a male goes through that a female probably doesn't in its basic form. So I don't think that is difficult to. I will say it is actually difficult to define.
Go on, jump.
Based on all these other definitions of it.
Right.
But that's
okay.
not.
Yeah, I think manhood is hard to
Into the
define
mic.
simply because, everything that is associated with men has been criminalized. I remember one of the earliest experiences that I had as a young child was my brother had a girlfriend, and she was much older. And I would run up because I liked the girl. She was a good-looking woman. And I remember the older women around saying, he's so mannish to be such a little boy. Well, in reality, you want the little boy to be mannish. You want him to show up authentically, acting from his intuition of what it means to be, a man. So the way that men should react to women is if there's a desire for the woman, they should express that desire authentically. If you look at what's happening in society now, there was a video the other day on Facebook, and one of the questions was, should a woman ever propose to a man? And that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, because if we go from a biblical perspective, the woman was created to be the helpmeet. If the woman is proposing, she's proposing that I have an idea or a dream life that I want you to help me build.
Right. All right.
So when the roles start to get reversed, it becomes difficult to define what manhood is, because the definitions of manhood are being changed.
Right.
You look at the women's movement, and I believe, based on what I've read, that monogamy is not necessarily a natural thing to man. The idea of marrying for love is a relatively new concept. And when you look at marriage, historically, marriage always was a business transaction. The man would take on a wife to help him build his property, to build his empire, to build his land, and she would give him children to help in that process.
Right.
As we're going through it now, women are making just as much money as men, and the men are becoming subservient in that role. And in many cases, they're becoming the protectors. They're becoming the providers. They're already, in many cases, the breadwinners. So now, in situations where the man needs to show up and be a man,
Right.
The woman is doing that.
I don't disagree. I think in today's society, and I do not agree with the fact that that the lines are being blurred. I am absolutely okay with there being some level of roles in relationships, and not even in relationships. I still think that there's a reason that I'm a man, and there's a reason that my wife is a woman. Right? We have our purpose,
right.
whatever that means. I think the lines kind of get blurred though when we begin to talk about the power of those things that we put ahead of it. So when we talk about a woman making more money than the man, like I have absolutely never cared about. No problem. And I'm not saying that you do, and that's what you're suggesting. But society is using that thing to build a case for why can't I do everything that you do, and it starts to bleed into the things that we bring to the table. And so now you have women and men kind of having a conversation about whether or not they're supposed to be this way or that way in a relationship. And it's screwing everything up. We're raising our sons and daughters differently because of that, right? And so I've asked a question before, like guys that have daughters, like when I talk to, like Dave and Jarrell have daughters, so it's like, they're raising their daughters with the utmost integrity and strength, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's going to take a guy that is not on that level in terms of strength. It's going to take a guy that's way above that, and that's fine. But some people are raising their daughters in a way as if, and I use the word need loosely, that they don't need a man. But isn't that our purpose? Well, to be together to make, and I could be wrong, but I think that men or women were made to be, to some degree, together. Right?
They were made.
That's
to be
the only way for there to be more men and women.
Right. I mean, I think the statement that they don't need a man, I think that definition is blurred.
Okay.
You know what I mean, that whole statement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because no, I don't want my daughter thinking she growing up focusing on needing a man.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, want a man.
Mm-hmm.
God send you a husband.
Right.
Fine. The fact of the matter is, every marriage ain't for everybody.
Fair.
So I don't want her having a mentality saying I'm dependent on a man, because that whole need a man, the definition can go so many different ways.
Yeah, I was just about to say, but need and dependent is two totally different.
That's what I was getting ready to ask.
Absolutely.
Is it two different things?
It's necessary for a female to have a man to procreate. You know what I mean? So,
but in that procreation, wouldn't you think that she would also need a man to, and again, using the word need loosely, right? Need a man to, after that procreation happens, to go through the evolution of what they made, right?
Put it like this: if it's in God's will for her to get married,
and I ain't just talking about. Let's not just talk about marriage. Let's talk about Let's talk about
there's some great women
Yeah.
who go all the way through life never having that you know what I'm saying, that man.
Right.
But in a relationship, you can't become the person that you need to become without the balance that a woman brings to you, or without the balance that a woman brings to a man.
Right.
So in that sense, they absolutely need each other.
Right.
You know, but the dependence part is something completely different.
But we use them synonymously today.
We use them synonymously, and we have built fear into certain words.
Right.
Okay?
Fair.
So we've built fear into the word need. The reality is, for me to get from the stage that I was before I was married into the stage that I was in when I got married, is two different places. I couldn't have gotten there because being married changed my mindset. It changed my approach to certain things. The reality is, we've gotten too caught up in accepting or trying to interweave society's opinions about things into things where we need to just say no. The same way we say the earth is round and the sky is blue. Mm-hmm. You can come in here and talk about whatever additional things you want to.
Right.
No.
Right.
And I think that's where we've gotten into this thing where we have situations where we have women saying, well, I can do whatever you do. Why? Because society said so. Fine. If that's what you believe, you live your life that way. But I don't have to accept it simply because you chose to believe what society told you.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're the same person who's saying, I can't find no good man. Or I can't find no man who's willing to step up. Or I can't find no man who does this or does that.
Right.
Because you aren't looking for a man. You're looking for an individual who's bought into the foolishness that you've equally bought into. And you want him to accept it and act according to what someone else told you is the case. Mm-hmm. When that's not the role that he was built for,
right,
or that you were built for.
Right.
So you can get down on one knee if you want to.
Yeah.
But the fool who accepts that proposal,
right,
is a fool.
Is a fool.
Right.
Because it's not about whether or not she makes more money, or whether or not he was ever going to ask, or any of those things. And part of that, to me, is why that goes there. You've been told you can do anything. Or if he won't do this, you got to step in and make it happen.
Yeah.
When the reality is the idea of marriage and how Western civilization has sold it all these years is that the man controls those ropes. So if he don't do it, it don't happen.
Right.
So I'm going to, because today's world says that I can be in control, I'm the alpha one, I'm the alpha female. If you want to believe that foolishness too, you go right ahead.
Right.
But I don't know anything where there's an alpha, there's more than one alpha in any given situation.
Right.
Okay? And it, like I say, if that's what you want to believe, the sky is red
Anything
today.
with two heads is a monster.
A monster. Okay?
Period.
And so
I don't have a run on for that one.
so we're putting ourselves in positions where we constantly have to redefine in an effort to be politically correct. When at the end of the day, is politics what's going to run your household, or are you going to run it?
I feel like you asked me that question specifically. Like, I feel like you were looking at me, right? Like I
throw in that was a rhetorical question right there.
No, politics will not run my household until it has to.
But politics is running our household.
No, they are.
And that's how we've
are.
gotten to the point that we've gotten to.
Yeah.
You know, again, like there's a scripture that says that Herod was going to there was a decree made by Herod to destroy all the males, you know, and spare all the females. Well, how else do you destroy a family? Do you destroy a community by separating the people that will build a household in the first place? You know, a nation divided against itself shall fall. So if you've got men and women from the same community fighting each other about what their prospective roles in the relationship are going to be to build that community, you'll never build the community.
Yeah.
But that's a great point. I think one of the problems that we have is that we've accepted the ideals that certain roles have inbred weaknesses.
I don't know that we've accepted, if I'm understanding you correctly, I don't know that we've accepted it. I think we should. And here's why. Here's why we should.
Go ahead.
Because it's to accept the fact that I have a weakness.
No, not you personally. That the role has a weakness.
So the role of a man and the role of a woman. Okay.
And I think that's what's become the issue, because I think one of the things that's become an issue for many women in our community is that they bought into the idea that living a certain role or the traditional role of a woman somehow puts them in a position of weakness. Puts them in a position where they don't have as much input, when the reality is any man who's the head of a household, okay, if he's strictly trying to make decisions all based on his own logic, is a fool.
Right.
Because you don't have all the answers. But if you claim that this is a person that you have in your life that you love like you love yourself,
right,
you got to pull her in because you cared about what she thought and her ability to think in the first place.
Yeah. I feel some type of way. I need you to look over there.
That's how you become
my fault, brother.
No, I'm messing with you.
No, sometimes the woman is there to point you in a better direction. You might have a good idea she could add on or even have you alter that to make, because the thing is, like you're saying, I believe when the women or the men start to think self, they're not thinking team.
Man,
for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like you have to think, okay, my role on the basketball team or whatever team, it may be little to me, but is the team winning?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the goal for us?
Right.
Exactly.
Are you two winning?
Yeah.
Is the family winning? Then what you complaining about?
Right.
Go
ahead. And I'll go after you, Tony. Go ahead.
Right. And I was just going to say to that, it all comes down to, is that person thinking in line with the vision that you have for where your family is going?
Exactly.
Right.
When you've got somebody thinking individualistically, it's because they don't think that the team members that they have are capable of stepping up to help them win.
Yeah, and I think society has a lot to do with that. So it's the messaging that we get every day that we don't even pay attention to, and you wind up and you figure out like, man, why did I get this frame of? Where did I get this frame of mind
we
from?
all watch sports, right? Everybody here watch sports. Y'all know when they interview a player on a team and they not doing well, and they say something like, "Man, we don't care about nothing that's going outside of this locker room.
Right.
We focused on us inside this locker room.
Exactly.
That's how it need to be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to your point, society has crept in a lot of
Right. To divide that.
relationship locker rooms.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So to speak.
To divide that, and I think that again, to go back to your point as it pertains to weakness, what I was trying to say is that I think inherently it's designed that way, because otherwise, if those roles didn't have inherent weaknesses, we wouldn't see the need for balance, right? And so, and we wouldn't see the need to be with the other person, right? So it's like society has decided to figure out a way to prop one up over the other. Like no one role is over the other. Like if my wife cooks and I wash the dishes, the cooking is not over me washing the dishes. What we've done is we've worked together to make an evening work for the family, right?
I'm gonna give you another scenario.
Yeah.
She cooks and she washes the dishes, but on another day you cook and wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Or she cooks and one day you notice that she's tired.
Yeah.
And you step in and say, "Go on, sit down.
Right.
I got these dishes," and whatever else needs to be taken care of.
Right.
I think we've gotten to a place where we've bought into the idea that it matters who did what to contribute to the win.
Right. And one thing has more value than the other some kind of way.
Exactly.
Like relationships don't work it doesn't work that way. Like,
No.
It just doesn't, right?
No.
If you look at how it works, I don't think you marry a particular person, or you shouldn't anyway, because they give 150% and you bring 20, right? Whatever that means, right? They just because they make 100,000, you feel like you can sit up and put your feet on. Like, no, you got to bring something else,
something of value,
to the table. You disagree?
No,
okay.
I'm in complete agreement.
Okay,
But a lot of times what happens is you have somebody sitting on the phone after they did the dishes and after they cooked and did the dishes, and somebody on the phone is talking about, "You cooked and you did the dishes. I wish I would."
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you
but
you don't live over here.
He just got off a 14-hour shift, though.
You understand what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
He made it possible to have something to cook
Right.
and some dishes.
Go
to
downstairs to my deep freezer and see if you can pick out some meat. We got every meat that you need.
I had a conversation at work the other day, and they were talking about shoveling snow. Mm-hmm. And the women in the room said, "Oh, I wish I would shovel some snow, and I got a man." Well, when we had the blizzard a month or so ago, when I got home, my parking space was shoveled out. Part of the sidewalk was shoveled out. When I first pulled into the parking spot, I was like, "Man, it wasn't as easy to get in when I left this morning." And then I thought about it. I looked around. I was like, "This girl been out here tossing snow around." And immediately I'm like, "Okay, you know you ain't supposed to be out here tossing this snow around."
Right.
So when I went in the house, it's like, "Was you outside shoveling snow?" "Yeah." "You know you ain't supposed to be outside shoveling no snow." "Yeah, but my husband left it 5-something this morning, and 12 hours later, it's a long day.
Yeah.
You've been out in the snow all day.
Right.
I was here. I had an opportunity to at least do some of it.
Right.
There you go."
Right. And you'd be like, "Well, goddamn it, can I get a bill? Let me get a bid in, baby." I feel you.
But just the whole idea that somebody was concerned about the team process.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. Fine. That day she cooked.
Yeah.
That day she did dishes. Now, I went outside and finished the rest of the snow.
Right.
But the thing that people got to get past is this whole, like you said, the percentage thing. Yeah. It's not about percentages.
Yeah,
it's strictly about the team.
Right.
Is the team winning? If this man is leading the household and if you have a 3,000 square foot house, you are winning.
Yeah.
Shut up and get in line.
Right. Yeah. And so to that point, I think to use your same example, I think part of the problem, at least for me, and I'll speak for me, sometimes I have to tell my wife, "You have to give me the space to be the man I want to be in your life."
Oh, no doubt.
Right. So if I say, I get that you can get out and you can shovel snow.
Right.
Right. But I think inherently as humans, sometimes we get in places where we get complacent. We can go months at work and have bad days at work, and we forget the things that we're responsible for from a role perspective. And then one of us picks up that tab, right? So now we start. So now if I'm always, if I'm tired and I come home and she's decided, if I don't address that in some kind of way, right? And then we have multiple blizzards after, and I'm going to work and doing that, and then I come home and the sidewalk is shoveled and my parking space is shoveled out.
Right.
At what point, like she's now taking that role from me and the ability for me to add value in that space. Sometimes you just got to get out of the way, and I think that's on both sides. And where it gets blurred is that what does that really mean? Is it because it's a physical act that I mean,
from my perspective, from my experience, if my wife step on my toes, when she volunteers to do something that she believes I need her to do, and I don't, I'll calmly tell her, baby, that's not what I need you to do. I need you to be doing this.
Right.
I got that.
Right.
Don't worry. I thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate you thinking that way.
Exactly.
But trust me, I got this.
Right.
I need you over here.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is how you helping me.
Right.
Not the way, because a lot of times, even men, sometimes we try to help out the way we want to help out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And women do the same thing. They want to help out the way they want to help out as opposed to what we need them to do or what they need us to do.
Right.
And I think when we get into the mentality, okay, what does they really need? It's not, you know how we It's not about us all the time and what we feel and what we think.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes just do what you're asked to help out.
Yeah.
But sometimes people deal with conflict at work all day and they just don't want to hear another no.
Yeah.
Especially when they get home.
Yeah.
Can you just do this for me,
Just,
please?
yeah.
I don't feel like, why you always...
Shut up.
Oh my God. and then the conflict, the real conflict.
Yeah. Then
they shut down.
Right.
Or we shut
Oh,
down.
we shut down.
We get
Fair.
another no, it's shut down.
For sure.
So I do want to address something on that note,
Okay.
Because it's something that I kind of go through a lot. You made the reference that you needed your wife to give you the space,
Right.
you know, to let you be the man. And a lot of times I hear that come from men. And for me personally, I question: is it a matter of them giving us the space or us taking the space? So when you go back to the reference about shoveling the snow,
Right.
my wife is a stay-at-home wife at this point. And she generally gets up at about 4:30 in the morning because our son gets up at the same time to go to school. And I would notice somewhere right around 5 o'clock, she'd get out and she'd shovel the snow because she was generally up before I was. And I started to think about, if I'm going to use the excuse that she does not give me the space to be the man, how do I prevent her from being in a situation where she has to take on a role that she feels I should be performing? So if she's shoveling snow at 5, I need to be out at 4:45 so that she never has the excuse to say that, yeah, if you were out doing it, then I wouldn't have to do it. And that has made me a better person in the sense that I look at things that, as a manager, I was kind of reactive to certain things. And when I started to have that experience about letting somebody or allowing somebody to give me the opportunity to do things as opposed to taking the initiative and doing it first, it eliminates the excuse that I didn't have the opportunity or I needed the space. No, I'm going to take the space. And you respond to what I'm doing at that point.
I absolutely hear you. I can't, and I understand where you're coming from. The only problem that I have, and it's not necessarily a problem, because I think we've all done that. We're men, we adapt. Like, because when we find a woman that we want to be with, we do the things to make life easier on them in whatever way that means, right?
Right.
In your scenario, you can't sustain that. Right? So if she's getting up at 4:30 because that's what she's doing and she's shoveling, and now you have to get up at 4, right? But you got to be to work and you work 12-hour shifts. So now you're beating her to the point. So you just to show her the fact that I'm going to do this and this is my part. So now you've made that adjustment. Now what happens is when she's getting up at 4:30 and she's now that you're shoveling the snow, she's now taking the garbage out. So now what are you going to do, right? And now she's taking the garbage out.
Or what if she's not getting up early?
Right, yeah, and so you can't sustain it, and then now, right? But then but you. So what I'm learning, right? But that's what I'm saying. So a lot of times in a relationship, we don't realize that we are training our spouses and our significant others to do the things that they're doing. And sometimes it's unknowing. So you getting up earlier, it just becomes another. And some women are just as competitive as we are.
Right.
And so so I get what you're saying. So you're getting out of the way. You're like, nope, you're not getting ready to do it. And then she finds something else. So it's like, so effectively what you're doing is that if your wife has a plate of food, right? And you're sitting there looking at it and you know, she can't eat all this. Let me take some of this short rib off. And so you turn around. And start eating the short rib. You look back over. She didn't put a half a chicken back on her plate. You're like, well, I just tried to help you out. You sitting over there stuffed. All right, well, let me cut this half a chicken in half. You turn around, you look back. She didn't put a pork chop. You're like, okay, well, wait, look, I can't keep
You
up.
just got a fat wife at that point.
And sometimes a fat wife is a happy wife.
No, yeah. But at some point, at least for me, what happens is now what I done is I done just took her plate and swept that off the table.
I think we can use something from both of y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the space, I agree with. Method, I don't.
Okay.
You saying, I need you to give me my space. If we put both of those together,
Communication.
basically all you could do is communicate with her and say, baby, you are not. I command you.
Right.
Do you have the Bible with you?
I command you not to shovel this
Beat her.
snow no more. You know what I mean? Like, and I think I'm saying it kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you have a real conversation like that, listen.
I need for you to do
Because women are emotional.
As always, we appreciate you joining us on this journey to become a better version of ourselves. These candid conversations are meant to inspire, encourage, and empower you with something that you can apply to your own life or share with someone that you know needs to hear it. We would love to hear how these conversations are impacting you or the people around you. So do us a solid and head on over to the review section on iTunes or Stitcher and leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, I'm proud to announce that we recently released our very first high-quality coffee table photo book, Fatherhood Through the Eyes of Black Dads. This book tells a story of 8 dads and their experience with fatherhood using powerful images. Head on over to our website awesomeblackdads.com, and click on the Projects tab for more information. You can follow us on all social media at Awesome Black Dads, and we'll see you next episode. Peace.